Welcome to the Stop Buffering 7-Day Challenge. Round of applause. I'm really proud of you. I'm really excited for you that you raised your hand and you said, I want to take a little break from buffering. And whether buffering is a new concept to you or not, and I want to redefine the concept. Re, I want to redefine the concept because buffering, we all buffer. There is no shame in that game. It's something that we do to temporarily escape our reality, our uncomfortable or painful, not great reality, which this year signified that for many, many people. And a lot of people are still in that zone where it's uncomfortable, it's uncertain, a lot of unknowns, and we're seeking something that feels good and grounds us, something that we know is going to give us that pleasure, that hit, that, that temporary, like, quieting down the mind. So these 7 days, treat it as like a retreat, a little bit of an experiment as well, to kind of see and observe and become aware of your behavior. And also, like, separating again any feelings of guilt or shame, or I'm doing this thing and I know it's terrible for me and I shouldn't do it. Like, really just stepping away and being able to observe again and become more aware. Awareness is key. Awareness is like number one, because with awareness builds more clarity, and with clarity builds on itself. And then you can then really decide, once things have been like out of your subconscious mind, because I truly believe that buffering most of the time is subconscious. We're not even aware of it. And once it's out and into your consciousness and it's something you can really be aware of, then you can decide, okay, well, I know what this is going to be. I know the results. I know that I will feel, this pleasure and it feels good and I'll feel this way. Do I want to do that? Because then you're making that choice consciously because you know the negative consequence. So again, buffering is really defined as overdoing something, an external thing, although it could be exercise. You could overdo exercise. If, but the defining factor is there a negative consequence on the other side? It's really like, is this getting in your way? Is it impacting your life negatively? And that definitely could be true with something that you overdo. It's like over consuming in general isn't necessarily good for the body, for the mind, and it's really influenced in our culture. So it's something that we have to be consciously aware of. And a lot of the time, it's like, oh, I feel kind of down. I want to, heighten an experience, and there's alcohol. It's pushed in our culture. Have fun. Here's a drink. Or you feel sad. Eat something sweet. Eat something. Comfort food. And once we find that connection, our brains are like wired for pleasure. So when it makes that connection, this thing brings me pleasure, it makes me feel good, we're hooked. So it really is this, like, stepping back from doing these things that then we can, like, it's like pulling off layers in a way. And I always say, like, the buffering fog. So once you remove the buffer, you no longer have this like haze. And from that, it stems to a lot of new experiences. It's a new perspective. So trying on a new perspective is trying. It does not mean permanently. This is not like you're done, stop it forever, no more pleasure. It's about noticing behaviors that are repetitive and become habits, again, subconsciously, and then asking yourself, is this really contributing to my life? Is this moving me forward? And in general, I mean, the fact that you're doing this challenge tells me that you do want to move forward, that you do want to be the best version of yourself. And by removing this layer from your life that is essentially keeping you from fully engaging and fully living life, then you can decide if you want to, how much you want this to be a part of your life. And I have my own experience of removing something I was buffering with, but not all the time. So I removed alcohol from my life 9 months ago. And there's been a lot of changes. Most of them, let's say all of them, have been positive. So I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. That took me a while to get there. And again, it's still a process. So I think the first question is, when you think about taking a break from buffering, your buffer of choice, what are those feelings that come up? And observing that. Because a lot of time, I know personally, it was a lot of fear, it was deprivation, missing out. What will I do in these circumstances? How will it work? And then also, who will I be without this layer, without this buffering? So first it was a lot of fear. And then turning it around, and this comes through experience. So again, this is another point of this week, is then to experience it rather than theorize it, because someone can tell us what they think is best, but only we know what's best for ourselves. And if you have that feeling, if you have that little voice in your head that's like, this isn't really, I'm not like operating and showing up as my best version, then that's something to listen to. Another reason we buffer actually is to turn that voice off. So we don't hear it. And that's the voice that is telling us potentially like, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, you didn't do that. Just that really, really critical voice that a lot of us have. And being able to turn that off is really nice. And I'm going to show you alternative ways to help silence that, to feel more grounded and more in control of your emotions, because emotions are very important. They are like signposts saying, hello, there's something to pay attention to here. And so they're there for a reason. It's really being able to listen and feel them rather than like running for the hills whenever something comes up. And that becomes, it's a pattern, it's a program. We've been programmed from a very young age. And a lot of the work I do in my coaching, with my NLP coaching, is to rewire that programming that's so deeply ingrained. It actually is like, it's a neural pathway that you've created most likely from a pretty young age. And so that's why it feels so familiar and so good and becomes a habit and a subconscious habit. So this is all about, again, bringing things to the surface, creating awareness, and giving it a name. I find that, like, let's take the shame out of, or secrecy or guilt, whatever it may be that you possibly have about buffering, this thing that you do. Most likely talking about, you're overeating or over drinking, TV binging is not something that you talk about freely. And because there could be some feelings of, it just doesn't feel very good. It doesn't feel very safe to talk about that. I'm on a mission to bring these to the surface. Like, let's talk about it. Let's just put a name on it. And that can signify, without any judgment about what it is you're buffering with, and just be able to identify, okay, I'm realizing, I'm seeing that I'm going towards this thing a little bit more intensely and seeking this temporary escape, from whatever it may be. And it's just, again, to like be able to separate from it. You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. So really being able to honor yourself and, really give yourself some compassion and self-love. And I think this is one of the first steps, first layers, is like, let's remove the stuff that, because of the negative consequence that you experience from overdoing this thing, that's an act of self-love. What I really aim to provide is a framework for you to experience throughout the week. And I'm going to give you some journal prompts. And these are not, these are just prompts. There's no requirement. This is not like a contest. It's a challenge. It's a personal challenge, because you're doing something differently. you're getting uncomfortable. And when you get uncomfortable, you're more likely, intentionally uncomfortable, by the way, you're more likely to experience learning and growth because you purposely stepped out of your comfort zone. So again, awareness is the most important thing. And if you find yourself buffering, great. Then you can become the observer. Maybe it's after the fact and you go, oh my gosh, I just buffered. Journal about that, write that down, write that experience down. And then you're just becoming more familiar with it. And again, so many of us were operating on programs that we don't realize. Our beliefs are programmed, our values, all of these things we have as a default. So now you're just able to bring a bit more awareness about what those things are. So the journal prompts are yours to use or not. Some of them may not apply to you. And then I'll pop into your inbox midweek with a podcast episode. I'm so excited to share with you with a dear friend and a client. We've been working together for many months. She is 3 weeks in on her stopping buffering, and she's doing a 40-day challenge. So she was removing the two things she buffers with, pot and alcohol, and she's doing a cleanse. So she's going full on. And I think her story is really powerful, very relatable. And I hope you can check that out. So I'll send that midweek. And I'll be teaching you EFT tapping. So I'll send you another video. I'm trying not to overwhelm you with things. EFT tapping is something that you can incorporate into your daily routine. I'll be giving you a morning routine as well, simplified. So I'm trying, my aim is to offer some tools to you, and then you can pick and choose. This doesn't really resonate with me. Meditation, I'm all about that, but it doesn't mean you need to meditate for 20 to 30 minutes a day. It's up to you. It's finding things that work and that are realistic for you. And you may not even know, because we have ideas about things. We're like, that's not me. If you would have told me that I would have cut out alcohol from my life a year ago, no chance. There's no way, because I had the belief that life would be a certain way. Through experience, it showed me completely different. So again, that's the point of this challenge. And really, identifying without judgment, again, what it is that you are potentially seeking to not feel. What are you avoiding feeling? And then once you identify that, it could be many things. This is just the experiment. Look at that and, work from there, not to eliminate that feeling. It's to identify, okay, this is driving me. Here's the cause and here's the effect. And the other thing is that finding other ways to achieve the same feeling, something else that gives you pleasure, identifying those is also a little exercise for you. Identifying those things, and then this is almost like it's in your back pocket. These other things feel similar. Now, I'm not saying a glass of wine is going to be the same as going on a 30-minute walk, but there are similar things that create the same response in the brain. That's it for now. Again, thank you for joining. Thank yourself for doing this work, this challenge. Take from it what you can and what you want. So I'm providing the tools and the prompts, but it does not mean you have to go full on. Okay, I'll see you guys very soon. Hit reply on this email, ask me anything. You can find me on Instagram at Where's Willow, also on Facebook. DM me there, so you know where to find me. Just know that I'm completely supporting you, rooting you on all week and beyond. Okay, I'll see you guys very soon.